The rain started before I got the call. It was a cold October rain, the kind that finds the back of your collar. My phone rang on the workbench. It was Meg. She was crying and she was trying not to be. "Dad," she said, "my key won't work." I told her I was coming. I did not ask questions. You learn, after enough years, that some calls are for driving, not for talking. I drove across town with the wipers going. When I turned onto her street, I saw my granddaughter on the porch. Poppy is 5. She had her little pink coat on, and she was holding her house key up to the lock with both hands, turning it, the way a child does when they believe hard enough will make a thing true. Leo stood behind her. He is 7. He had his arm around his sister without being told to. Boys learn that early in some houses. There were 2 black garbage bags on the step. They were full of the children's clothes, and in the driveway, parked where my daughter's car should have been, sat a little silver coupe I did not know. I knew it belonged to someone, though. A man learns to read a driveway. Meg came down the steps to my truck. Her mascara had run. She was holding herself the way people hold a cracked cup, careful, like it might come apart if she moved wrong. "He changed the locks," she said. "He changed the locks while I took the kids to school." The front door opened then. My son-in-law stepped out onto his porch. Trevor, 41 years old, in a shirt that cost more than my first work van. Behind him, in the warm light of the hall, a woman I had never met crossed from the kitchen and did not look at us. "It's my house, Meg," Trevor said. His voice was easy. That was the part that turned my stomach. It was easy. "You brought nothing into it. Go cry to your broke old man." Then he looked at me, standing in the rain by my truck, and he smiled. "No offense, Gus," he said. I did not raise my voice. I opened the back door of my truck. I lifted Poppy in first, then Leo. I put the 2 garbage bags on the floorboard. I turned the heater all the way up because the children were cold, and cold is the thing you can fix first. Then I drove my daughter and my grandchildren to my house. I did not slam anything. I did not say the thing that was sitting in my chest. He shut a door on my grandchildren that night. He was very pleased with himself. He had forgotten to ask whose name that door was really under. But I am getting ahead of myself. My name is Gus Holloway. I am 68 years old. I am retired and I am a widower, and I live in the same small house in Chillicothe, Ohio, that I have owned for 40 years. Most mornings I make coffee in a blue enamel pot on the stove. It was Ruth's, my wife. We were married 43 years, and she has been gone for 2 of them, and I still make coffee in her pot because the day I stop will be a day I am not ready for. I still set out 2 cups some mornings, then I put one back. That is a thing they do not warn you about. The hands remember longer than the head does. Ruth and I met young. She worked the register at a hardware store on Payne Street, and I came in for pipe fittings I did not need, 3 days running, until she told me to either buy something worth the trip or ask her to supper. I asked her to supper. I never really stopped. She raised Meg while I built the business. She kept the books in the early years, at the kitchen table, a pencil behind her ear. She had more sense about people than any man I ever hired. She could look at a customer or a new man on the crew and tell me in one sentence what it would take me a year to learn. She was the one who taught me that quiet is not the same as weak. I lost the dog last spring, a good old shepherd named Boone. I have not replaced him. Some mornings I still reach down beside my chair. The hands remember. The town knows me a certain way. They know the old pickup. They know that if their walk-in cooler quits on a Sunday or the furnace dies the week before Christmas, they can call Gus, and Gus will come, and Gus will not charge them what a franchise would. They see an old repairman with grease worked into his knuckles. They see a quiet man with a dog he lost last spring and never replaced. I never corrected any of it. Ruth used to say a quiet man keeps his own weather. She meant that what a man carries inside is his own business, and the world does not need a tour. So I will tell you the part the town did not see. In 1983, when I was 25, I bought a used van and started fixing refrigeration for anybody who would have me. Coolers, compressors, ice machines. I learned to read a failing unit the way a doctor reads a chart. Low on the suction side, frost creeping up the line, a compressor short-cycling itself to death. I could stand in a grocery back room and tell you what was wrong before I set my toolbox down. One truck became two. Two became a crew. By the time Meg was in high school, I had a shop and rooftop contracts on half the schools in 3 counties, and an ammonia rack running a cold storage plant that never once went down on my watch. There is a night I still think about. A frozen food warehouse, the week before Christmas, 1996. Their whole ammonia system went down at 2 in the morning, $100,000 of product an hour from spoiling. They called 4 companies. 3 said they would come in the morning. I was there in 40 minutes in my long johns and a coat. I found it by feel and by sound, the way you learn to. A failed oil pump on the low stage compressor. I nursed that plant through until sunrise with a rebuilt pump and a lot of patience, and they did not lose a single pallet. They tried to pay me double. I would not take it. I took the contract instead, and I held it for 20 years. That is how you build a thing. Not by telling people how far you have come, by showing up in your long johns when the smart money stayed in bed. Trevor never knew that story. He never asked for one. In 2004, I did a thing that surprised people who knew me. I took my own name off the trucks. I rebranded the whole company Ridgeline Mechanical. I put the ownership into a holding company and later into a family trust, and I stopped being a face on a logo and started being a man nobody needed to think about. I did it on purpose. I had seen what money does to how people treat you. I did not want to be treated well because I was rich. I wanted to know who was kind when they thought I was nothing. In 2016, I stepped back. I made Diane Colson the president. She had been with me 20 years, and she was better at running the place than I ever was. I kept my chair as chairman, and I kept every share, and I mostly stayed home and fixed my neighbors' coolers for free. That is the man on the porch in the rain, not a broke old handyman, just a quiet one. Meg was 30 when she married Trevor Marsh in the summer of 2018. I liked him at the wedding. I want to be honest about that. He was charming. He held doors. He called me sir. The children came fast after. Leo in 2019, Poppy in 2021, and for a while it was good. Then Trevor took a job. He took it at Ridgeline Mechanical. He did not take it because of me. That is the strange part, the part I have turned over many nights since. He took it in 2020, after I had already stepped back. He came in as an operations coordinator. He worked under Diane, and somewhere in his head, he decided the company belonged to corporate, some faceless thing, and that the old man who started it had cashed out and gone broke years ago. Meg never made a thing of it. She is my daughter. She keeps her own weather too. And I never corrected him. There is a lesson in there about pride, and it is mine, not his. I let a man be wrong about me because being underestimated had never once cost me anything. It had never cost me my daughter's front door. The cuts started small, the way they always do. There was a Sunday dinner, maybe a year back. I had brought a casserole because a widower learns to cook a few things or starve. Trevor was talking about his climb at work. VP of operations, he said. It was coming. He could feel it. Leo knocked over his milk. I reached to help. Careful, that's real furniture, Trevor said. Then to the table, grinning. Gus fixes fridges. I run operations. Different worlds, buddy. Everybody laughed a little. That is how it works. Nobody means the harm. They just move past you. I wiped up the milk. Another time his furnace quit in December. I offered to look at it. I have looked at 10,000 furnaces. I've got a guy, he said. He called a franchise. They charged him $600 to replace a flame sensor I could have cleaned with a dollar bill and a matchbook. He told that story at Thanksgiving like it was proof of something. How he only used professionals now. How he had come so far. There was Poppy's 4th birthday, a backyard full of people. Trevor had a caterer, a bounce house, a photographer. When it came time to sit, there was no chair for me. An oversight, he said. Somebody pulled one from the garage. I sat at the corner of the table, a little apart, and I watched my granddaughter blow out her candles from the cheap seats at her own party. Ruth would have said something. Ruth was gone by then. So I said nothing and I ate my cake, and I told Poppy her wish would come true because she had good lungs. There was the time he tried to explain my own trade to me. We were standing in his kitchen and his refrigerator was running warm. He had read something online. He started telling me about coolant and how the compressor pushes the cold around. That is about right, I said. It was not about right. It was mostly wrong. But there is no arguing a man out of being impressed with himself. I reached behind the unit while he talked, brushed a year of dust off the condenser coils with my hand, and felt the fan finally pull clean air. By supper, it was cold again. He told Meg he had fixed it. I let him have that too. I had let him have a lot of things. He kept telling that room how far he had come. He never once asked how far the road under him had been built, or by whom. I watched. That is the thing about being treated like furniture. Furniture sees everything. Nobody performs for a chair. I saw the way Meg's shoulders went up before his jokes landed, the way a person braces for weather they have felt before. I saw him take calls in the other room and come back smiling at nothing. I heard at the diner, where old men hear everything, that Trevor Marsh had been seen more than once with a young woman from his office, a woman named Sabrina. I did not say anything to Meg. You do not hand a person a wound on a rumor, but I started paying a different kind of attention. Not to Trevor, to Meg. I saw her checking her phone and putting it face down. I saw her make excuses for a husband who was never home. I saw her laugh a beat too late at his jokes, the way you laugh when your mind is somewhere darker. She was carrying something heavy and telling everyone the bag was empty. I have raised one daughter. I know the sound of her pretending. She has done it since she was 6 years old and broke a window and swore the neighbor's cat did it. I did not push. A father who pushes just teaches his daughter to hide better. I made sure she knew my door was never locked. I told her that once, plain, while we did dishes. Whatever happens, I said, my house is your house. It always has been. You do not ever have to earn a bed under my roof. She looked at me a second too long. Then she said the kettle was boiling, and it was not. I remembered that too. I am good at remembering. And then came the rain and the locks and the 2 garbage bags on the step. The morning after, my house was full again for the first time in 2 years. Poppy wanted pancakes. Leo wanted to know if he was still going to school. Meg sat at my kitchen table in yesterday's clothes and could not look at me. I feel like I failed, Dad, she said. I brought him into all of it. The kids, the house, everything. I let him. I poured her coffee from Ruth's pot. You did not fail, I said. You loved somebody who lied to you. Those are not the same thing. They have never been the same thing. She cried then. The real kind, the kind that has been waiting a while. I let her. Some things you do not fix. You just sit next to them. When the children were at school, I went and got the rest of Meg's belongings. I called the county first, and a deputy met me there, because I do things the right way, and the right way has witnesses. Trevor was home. Of course he was. He was too pleased to be anywhere else. He followed me from room to room while I boxed up Meg's mother's dishes and the children's toys. He could not help himself. Guilty men talk. You know, this was always coming, he said. Meg and me, we grew apart. It happens. I taped a box shut. By spring, I'll have the title cleaned up. The VP office, the whole thing, he said. A fresh start. No offense, Gus, but I'm done with the broke Holloway circus. All of it. I picked up the box. The house was mine the day I signed the papers, he said. You can tell Meg that too. I carried the box out to my truck. I did not answer him. Some men, you let them keep talking, because every word is a nail they are handing you. I drove home. And that night, after the children were asleep, I opened a binder Ruth had made me sit down and build back in 2023. She had insisted on it. Estate planning, she called it. Boring, I called it. She won, the way she usually did. The house Trevor had just locked my daughter out of was not Trevor's. It was not Meg's exactly either. It was held in the Holloway family trust. Ruth and I had moved it there for the children 3 years back. Trevor had signed a consent page as a spouse, 1 page in a stack of 40, and I would bet my last dollar he never read a word of it. People never read the boring pages. That is where the truth usually lives. And Ridgeline Mechanical, the company that had been signing Trevor Marsh's paycheck every 2 weeks for 6 years, the company he called corporate, the company whose VP office he was already decorating in his head. That was mine. Every bolt of it. He thought he had signed his way into a house. He had signed his way into the far end of my patience. I did not sleep much that night, but I did not lie there angry either. I lay there planning. There is a difference, and the difference is everything. 2 days later, I drove to the Ridgeline office after hours and sat down across from Diane Colson. Diane has run my company for 10 years. She has known who signs her paychecks the whole time. She poured me the bad break room coffee and did not pretend she had not heard. "The whole building knows he put Meg and the kids out," she said. "He's been telling people it was mutual." "It was not mutual," I said. "I know that, Gus." She slid a folder across the desk. "His VP packet is on the board's desk," she said. "Which is your desk. And I need to tell you something before you decide anything, because I will not sit on it." She opened the folder. Ridgeline had run its normal quarterly expense audit. It flags things. A resort weekend on a company card, no client attached. A jewelry store, $1,200 on a Tuesday. A second phone line billed to the department. Small things, spread out, the way a man hides money when he thinks nobody is looking at furniture. Company money, spent on Sabrina. Diane closed the folder. "You could end him in a morning," she said. "One phone call. He'd be walked out by lunch, and half of it would be legal after that. The question is, what kind of man you want to be when the whole room finally turns around and sees you." I sat with that. "I do not want to burn him down," I said. "I want the room to see clearly, once, and then I want my daughter safe in her own house." Diane nodded slowly. "That," she said, "is why it was always going to be you." The next day I sat with Warren Boyd, who has been my attorney for 30 years and my friend for longer. Warren looked at the trust in the deed and made a small sound that lawyers make when a thing is clean. "The house is the trust's," he said. "It has been since 2023. He signed the consent himself. Meg and the children can be home inside a week. He has no standing. None." "No drama," I said. "No drama," Warren agreed. "Due process. It is slower. It is also the only kind that holds." Driving home, I heard Ruth. I hear her most when I get quiet. "Let the facts do the work, Gus. You do not have to be loud to be right." "I know," I said out loud, to a truck cab with nobody in it. "I know, Ruthie." So I did not rush. Rushing is how the guilty get to call you the villain. I have seen it. A man moves too fast, and suddenly he is the one who looks cruel, and the one who lied gets to stand there wounded. I let the calendar do its slow, honest work. Warren started the paperwork to put Meg back in her home. Diane quietly pulled Trevor's VP packet off the board agenda without a word to Trevor, so that his fall would land in a room, not in a rumor. I want to be plain about what I did and did not do, because it matters. I did not touch his pay while the audit ran its normal course. I did not have him followed. I did not call his mother or Meg's friends or post one word anywhere. I did not so much as raise my voice to him at the house when he stood there bragging with a box of my daughter's dishes between us. I let the paper be true on its own. The trust was already the trust. The audit had already flagged what it flagged. His own signature was already on the consent page. I did not build a trap. I just stopped standing in front of the one he had built for himself. Warren said it best, over coffee at my kitchen table, with the trust binder open between us. "The strongest case," he said, "is the one where you did nothing wrong and simply stopped protecting the man who did. No judge, no jury, no family member on this earth can call that cruelty." "Ruth used to say something like that," I told him. "Smart woman," Warren said, "married beneath her." I laughed for the first time in a while, and in the meantime, my house filled up with life again. Meg started sleeping. The color came back to her a little at a time. Poppy learned to crack an egg on the side of Ruth's yellow bowl, mostly into the bowl. Leo followed me into the garage in the evenings, and I set him up with a scrap of copper pipe and a practice fitting and showed him how solder pulls into a joint when the heat is right. "It's like magic," he said, watching the silver line disappear into the seam. "It is not magic," I told him. "It is patience and the right heat. Most things worth doing are." The house learned a rhythm again. It had been too quiet for 2 years. Now there were small shoes by the door, and cartoons too loud in the morning, and a 5-year-old who wanted a story every night and negotiated for two. I had forgotten how much a house wants to be full. Meg was slower to heal than the children. That is how it goes. The young ones bend, the grown ones break and have to set the bone. Some nights she blamed herself, and I would not let her carry it alone. "He fooled a lot of people, Dad," she said one night. "Not just me. Everybody liked him." "He fooled me too at the wedding," I said. I shook his hand and thought, there is a good one. So if you were a fool, you were in good company, and the company includes your old man who has read people for a living for 50 years. That made her almost smile. "You are not going back to being small," I told her. "I watched you get small for 8 years, an inch at a time, and you did not even see it happening. That is done now." She started going back to her own work in December. Bookkeeping, like her mother. She is good at it. She came home the first day tired in the good way, the way a person is tired when the tired is theirs and nobody is taking it from them. That was the day I knew she would be all right. At night, after they slept, Meg would sit with me on Ruth's porch swing, and we would not always talk. Some nights we just let the swing creak. "He's telling everyone I fell apart," she said one night, "that I couldn't handle it, that I'm running to Daddy." "Let him," I said. "A man who has to lie about you is a man who already lost the argument. He just has not been told the score yet." The Ridgeline Mechanical Annual Awards Banquet is the biggest night the company has. 200 people. A hotel ballroom. The crews come in from 3 counties in their good clothes. We give out awards for safety, for service years, for the apprentices coming up. I go every year. I sit at a back table. Most of the newer people do not know the quiet old man in the corner is the founder. I like it that way. I get to hear the truth at those tables, the way you only hear it when nobody's performing for you. Trevor came to the banquet in a new suit. He had Sabrina on his arm in front of 200 of his co-workers, 10 days after he put his wife and children out in the rain. That tells you what he thought was coming. A man does not bring the woman to the coronation unless he is sure of the crown. I got to the ballroom early, the way I always do. I like to see the crews come in. They clean up nice. A man who spends his week on a hot roof or in a cold room looks 10 feet tall in a pressed shirt with his wife on his arm. I found my table in the back corner. I wore Ruth's favorite gray jacket. She picked it out for me a long time ago and told me I looked like a man people should listen to. I have worn it every year since she passed, to this dinner, because she liked it and because it steadies me. Diane came by my table once, early. She squeezed my shoulder and did not say a word. She did not have to. 10 years is a long time to know a person. I heard him at a table near the front. He did not see me. He was holding forth the way he does. "The guy who started all this? Ancient history," Trevor said. "Cashed out, went broke, some sad story. Corporate runs it now. By next quarter, that's basically me." The people at his table smiled the way you smile at a man's boss's boss when you do not yet know he is the boss's boss. I turned my coffee cup a quarter turn on the tablecloth. Ruth used to say I did that when I was thinking hard. I did not know I still did it. Then Diane Colson went up to the podium. She tapped the microphone. The room settled. "Before we get to the awards," she said, "I want to do something we do not usually do. I want to introduce someone." I felt it coming. I had asked her to. And still, my heart did a slow, heavy thing in my chest. "Most of you have worked here for years and never met him," Diane said. "That is by his own design. But he built this company. One used truck in 1983. Every contract, every truck in that lot, every paycheck in your account. He still owns all of it. Our founder and the chairman of this company, Gus Holloway." 200 people turned around in their chairs to look at the back of the room. They were looking for someone important. They found the quiet old man in the gray jacket at the corner table, the handyman, the broke father-in-law, me. I stood up, and across that ballroom my son-in-law finally understood whose company had been signing his checks. Silence. I have been in a lot of rooms. I have never heard one go that quiet that fast. You could hear the ice settle in the pitchers. Trevor's face did a thing I will remember for the rest of my life. It went from the smile to confusion to the slow gray understanding of a man watching a floor he trusted turn out to be a trapdoor. Sabrina let go of his arm. I walked to the front. I did not hurry. I shook Diane's hand, and I turned to the room. And I want you to know that I was not angry when I spoke. I was past angry. I was clear. Thank you, I said. I want to thank the crews first. You are the company, not the logo, not the office. You, on the roofs and in the cold rooms, doing it right when nobody is watching. That is Ridgeline. They started to relax, a little applause. There is going to be a small change tonight, I said. There will not be a vice president of operations announced. The board has reviewed the packet and some expenses attached to it, and that promotion is withdrawn. I did not look at Trevor when I said it. I did not have to. 200 people did it for me. We are going to make some accounts right, I said. Quietly, the way we do things here. That is all I will say about it tonight, because these people came for their awards, and they have earned them, and this is their night. I never said the woman's name. I never said my daughter's name. I never said the word mistress or affair or theft. I did not have to. A room always knows. A room had known for weeks. All I did was stand up in it, once, at the exact moment my son-in-law reached for something that was never his. Then we gave out the awards. Safety first. 25 years of service to a line worker named Miguel Herrera, who cried a little and made us all cry a little. The apprentice of the year. By the time I sat back down, Trevor and the silver coupe were gone from the parking lot. I did not take one thing from that man that he had earned. I only stopped lending him the respect he had been spending. 3 days later, Trevor came to a conference room at Ridgeline. He did not come willingly. He came because Warren called and told him the alternative. He sat across from Warren and Diane and me. He was smaller than I had ever seen him. The suit was gone. He was in a windbreaker, and his hands would not be still. You planned this, he said. His voice cracked on it. You sat there the whole time. You waited. No, I said. I stopped waiting. There is a difference. You will have years to learn it. Warren laid it out, plain and slow. The company had documented certain personal charges on company accounts. The number was a little over $9,000. Trevor could resign, today, and repay it on a schedule, and Ridgeline would not refer the matter for prosecution. The house was the trust's and had been for 3 years. He would sign the acknowledgement and be out of it by the weekend. Meg and the children would be home. And if I don't sign? Trevor asked. It was the last of the old defiance, and it was thin. Then it stops being my decision, I said, and starts being the county's. I would rather it be mine, for the children's sake, not yours. He signed. Then I did the thing I had come to do. I asked Warren and Diane to give us the room. When it was just the two of us, I did not gloat. I want you to know that. There is no medicine in gloating. I have never once felt better for it. You are done as my family, I told him. There will not be a chair for you at my table again. I will not forgive you. I do not have to. A man is allowed to close a door and keep it closed. That is not cruelty. That is just knowing the difference between people who are sorry and people who are only caught. He looked at the floor. But you have 2 children, I said. Leo and Poppy did not do any of this, so the door to them stays open if you decide to walk through it like a father. You pay what you owe. You keep your times with them. You do not put one drop of poison in them about their mother. You do that, and you can be their dad. You fail at that, and you will answer to me, and I will not be quiet the second time. He nodded. He was crying by then. I did not know if it was for what he had done or for what he had lost. Maybe he did not know either. That is his to carry now, not mine. Accountability is not the same thing as ruin. I gave him a road. I just was not going to be walking down it beside him. Winter came. Then it went. The way winters do, slower than you want, and then all at once. Meg and the children moved back into their home in November. Warren had the title clean in the trust, her name and the children's where they belonged. No man able to change a lock on them again. I helped her carry the boxes back in. The same boxes. It felt like undoing a wrong knot. She hung her mother's dishes in the same cabinet. Poppy found the exact spot on the counter where she liked to crack her eggs. Something changed in town a little after the banquet. Word gets around. The old repairman turned out to own the biggest mechanical company in 3 counties. People looked at me a beat longer at the diner. A man I had known for years asked, careful if it was true. It is true, I said. The coffee is still on me, though. I did not want the looking. That was the whole reason I took my name off the trucks in the first place. So I did the only thing I know how to do about it. I stayed the same. I still fixed Edna Pruitt's ice machine on a Sunday for the cost of the part. I still drove the old truck. Money is only worth what it lets you not have to do. It never once bought me a better morning than a full porch swing and a pot of Ruth's coffee. The ones who mattered treated me exactly the same as before. That told me I had chosen my friends right, 40 years ago, back when I was nobody worth impressing. Trevor kept his word mostly. He pays what he owes. He takes the children every other weekend, and he brings them back on time, and he is civil to Meg in a small, careful way, like a man walking on a floor he knows can open up. Sabrina was gone within a month. I never heard her name again, and I was glad of it. Some Saturdays now, Leo comes over to my garage and we work on things. He can sweat a copper joint on his own now. He is proud of it. So am I. Grandpa, he asked me one evening, the torch hissing between us, did you really build the whole company? The whole thing? One cold truck at a time, I told him. Nothing worth having comes all at once, buddy. Anybody who tells you different is selling something. He thought about that the way 7-year-olds do, all the way down. I'm going to build something too, he said. I know you are, I said, and I meant it. In the mornings, I still make coffee in Ruth's blue enamel pot. Some nights, when Meg brings the kids over, the 3 of us sit on Ruth's porch swing until the streetlights come on, and it holds all 3 of us fine. Poppy fell asleep out there one night, her head on my arm, and I did not move for an hour. Some things you do not want to fix. You just want to hold still inside them. We did not get the old family back. We got a truer one, a smaller one. Fewer chairs at the table and more warmth in every one of them. Ruth would have liked this table. That turned out to be the better trade. If you have ever been treated as though you had nothing to give by the very people you carried the longest, I hope tonight reminded you of something. Your worth was never up for their vote. You do not have to be loud to be right, and you do not have to burn a person down to stop letting them stand on you. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who may need to hear it tonight. And tell me in the comments about the quiet person in your life the whole world underestimated, so I can read a few of them. Thank you for spending this time with me. And remember, no matter how old you are, it is never too late to choose dignity over noise, patience over pride, and the family that stays over the pretending that leaves.